This is a 9-year-old daughter. This is a 30-year-old mother. And this is a 36-year-old father. The male owner was covered in knife wounds and died beside the bed. The bed. The daughter had her hands bound with electrical wires and was found dead, naked from the waist down, on the bed. The female owner's hands and feet were tied with iron wire, and after being gang raped, she was brutally killed. Not only that, but the girl also suffered inhuman abuse. Who would dare to believe that such things could be done by humans? What's even more shocking is that this was just the tip of the iceberg of the perpetrator's crimes. On February 8, 2002, a horrifying mass murder took place in Zhuzhou City, Hunan Province, where a family of 3 was brutally murdered in their own home. The male owner, along with others, was slashed dozens of times, lying in pools of blood. The female owner, Ms. Li, had her hands and feet tightly bound with iron wire, was repeatedly assaulted, and then brutally murdered. Lying on the bed, what was even more heartbreaking was that their 9-year-old daughter did not escape the same fate, and passed away after suffering unimaginable abuse. The gruesome scene at the crime site shocked all investigators. The Zhuzhou City Police responded swiftly, forming a special investigation team and listing this case as the top priority case of the year in the province, aiming to apprehend the killers as soon as possible. After in-depth investigation by the detectives, the identity of the victim, James, gradually became clear. He was a 36-year-old businessman who had moved from Zhejiang to Zhuzhou, while his wife, Little Li, was a local. Besides the murdered daughter, they also had a 2-year-old son, who became the only survivor in this tragedy. It was a neighbor who discovered the son. On the day of the incident, February 8th, this neighbor was the first to find the bloodied son in the hallway. The neighbor said, "I saw the child in the hallway around 5 o'clock. I recognized him, so I took him home. When I got to his house, I knocked on the door, but no one answered." Seeing this, the neighbor felt an ominous premonition and quickly called the police. Upon arriving at the scene, the officers were shocked to find that James and his family had been dead for 2 days. Had it not been for their little son's unexpected escape, this tragedy might have remained hidden for much longer. However, what puzzled the police was how a 2-year-old child managed to open the double security doors of iron and wood and crawl out. Moreover, why did the killers leave behind the young son after murdering the family of 3? More baffling was how this 2-year-old child managed to survive alone in the house for the long 2 days and nights. With many mysteries, the police hoped to get some clues from the young son, but due to his very young age, he knew nothing. After a meticulous examination of the crime scene, the police found that the safe had been pried open, yet the doors and windows of the house were intact. From this, the officers deduced that the perpetrator likely entered through the front door under normal circumstances, robbed the valuables, and then brutally murdered the family of 3. The killer was either a stranger or an acquaintance. The investigation team immediately began looking into James's social relationships. Upon investigation, it was found that James had moved from Zhejiang to Zhuzhou many years ago, accumulating considerable wealth through his business in rare metals. Could this case have been triggered by enmity from his business dealings? The police noted that James's last phone call before his death was to a business partner who still owed James $1,000,000 in goods payment. However, after a thorough investigation, this business partner was found not to have had the time to commit the crime. As the investigation deepened, the police discovered that after making his fortune in Zhuzhou, James frequently visited entertainment venues and maintained intimate relationships with 6 women, including a karaoke hostess. Based on this, the investigators pondered whether this could be a case of a love triangle or a crime of passion. At this point, they received information from the karaoke bar owner about a hostess named Lily, who had once been abandoned by James and had conflicts with him. However, after further investigation into the owner's whereabouts, the police confirmed that he was not at home during the time of the crime, completely ruling him out as a suspect. In the following days, the special investigation team worked around the clock, methodically checking over 1,000 suspects. As the scope of the investigation narrowed, suspicions finally focused on Johnny, who lived in the same residential area as the deceased. According to the investigation, neighbors had a poor opinion of Johnny, describing him as having a bad temper and no legitimate job. Despite living with a woman and having a daughter, neighbors knew nothing about his source of income. These anomalies heightened the police's suspicion of Johnny. Detectives quickly went to Johnny's house to question his wife, who claimed Johnny had returned to his hometown for the new year before the crime. However, the police did not easily believe this statement and decided to wait patiently for Johnny to return. Finally, on March 4th, as soon as Johnny appeared, he was taken in for questioning. Johnny remained unusually calm, talking freely about his whereabouts. However, the meticulous police noticed suspicious marks on him during the interrogation. The evidence was immediately sent to the technical center for analysis, and Johnny's fingerprints were taken for comparison. The results showed that the items found on Johnny matched the evidence at the crime scene, and his fingerprints also matched those from another burglary case. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Johnny's psychological defenses finally collapsed. He confessed to his crimes and provided details about his two accomplices, Jia and Wang De. Following Johnny's leads, the police arrested Jia that night and 10 days later apprehended Wang, who had fled to Guangdong. Thus, the major murder case at the Poly Garden was solved after 28 days. According to Johnny's confession, he had always been idle, and after meeting Jia and Wang, the three hit it off and committed multiple crimes together. Johnny, under the guise of running a supermarket in the Poly Garden area, secretly observed and targeted wealthy residents. The victims, including James, became their targets due to their penchant for flaunting wealth. Johnny got close to James's wife through gambling, gradually learning about the safe in their home. In June 2001, when James's maid accidentally left the keys at his store, Johnny took the opportunity to make a duplicate. Then, on the night of February 6, 2002, Johnny, along with Jia and Wang, entered James's home with their tools. Johnny, familiar with the layout, went straight to the bedroom to kill James, then bound his wife with iron wire, dragging her to another room where they raped and killed her. Jia and Wang, meanwhile, gang-raped the 9-year-old daughter. The little girl, in a desperate struggle, managed to escape to the next room, but was ultimately killed by Johnny. After committing the crime, the three stole 2.5 million yuan in cash and some gold ornaments from the safe. And before leaving, they also choked the 2-year-old son until he passed out. Fortunately, in their haste to escape, they forgot to close the door, allowing the son to survive. They did these things, and ultimately, they will face the legal consequences they deserve.